Okay, so let's go ahead and start building out and roughing out the character. So what I do before I start roughing out the character, I like to put a reference of the image right here. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to jump over to Photoshop where I have this character. And what I want to do is basically just make a silhouette of the character, so I can take just this into ZBrush and have it there. So what I'm going to do is flatten the image, and this doesn't really have to be too accurate. I actually like to have a slight outline around it, just so I know where things end. I could take a lot of time if I wanted to and really trace the silhouette, but basically I don't care too much to waste that much time on something like this, because I won't have it up the whole time, and it's just something quick. But it's good for reference to have and to know the proportions that I've kind of figured out to remind me of that. And I'm doing this one instead of the one that I've traced over. That one I'm going to just keep up on my second screen. This one I'm just going to keep as kind of my concept guide of what the final piece should reflect. So I'm just using the lasso tool, and this is from this is like the free lasso. But if you hold Alt or Option on Windows, you can, or Option on Mac, Alt on Windows, you can. It's just a straight edge instead of. It's kind of like the hard shaped one. I don't know what the tools are called. Anyways, but as soon as you let go of Option or Alt, it makes a selection. Then you have to tap. You don't have to worry about tapping too close to the other one. So what I'm going to do is invert. After I get this selected, I'm going to invert the image by doing Control Shift or Command Shift if you're on a Mac. I'm going to stop saying that after I get back in here. I figure if you guys are using this tutorial, you've used ZBrush a lot. I'm using a Mac. At work I use a Windows, so I switch around quite a bit, but I'm just going to be using mask, unmask, select, deselect, that kind of stuff, instead of telling you the type of hotkeys these are, because if you're using this tutorial, you should probably know at least the basics of ZBrush. Anyways, okay, so with this selected, what I'm going to do is invert the selection by doing Command Shift or Control Shift and I, and that will invert the selection. You'll see the kind of the selection border around the end, making sure that your secondary color is black, and then you do Command or Control Delete, which will fill in that with the opposite color. And you want that pure black, because anything that's going to be completely black will be transparent. And so this has got a lot of black in it, the black lines. And to keep that from being transparent, I'm going to invert this selection again, Control Shift or Command Shift I, and if I hit Control L, this pulls up my levels, and I'm just going to bring it up slightly in saturation. So it's more gray than black. Again, this is more just a guide. This isn't, it's not going to affect anything. Hit OK. I'm going to save this image as a JPEG. If I do save for web, whoa, get you out of there. I don't need it so big. Maybe only 1500 big. Save, and then I'll save this into my folder. Anyways, now I'll not save this. I'm going to bring this onto my other screen. So I have this as my reference. Okay, now into ZBrush. First, I just have to bring in a primitive, so I'll just start with a Z-sphere. Drag it in, hit comma to get rid of that menu here. Hit T to edit. Make sure you go over and make that a polymesh 3D. I'm going to change the material because I hate that red wax material. And now I want to bring in that reference image that I made. So if I go into under my texture, go to import, and I'm going to find that image that I just saved. Bring that in, and now back to my texture. Select that texture so it becomes the main one in the selection box, and then add that to Spotlight right here. So I want to add to Spotlight, scale that down a little bit, move it over here. Gonna make that a little bit more transparent or opaque, and then I'm just going to do the intensity slider so it starts taking out that black a little bit. Just a titch, and it just dissolves that black so it's completely transparent. Now I don't want that so opaque anymore, so I'll take the opacity down just a titch. And then when I want to get rid of this here, so I can move this around if I click inside this inner circle. And if I click on this middle circle, then I can move it out, around. But then if I just click anywhere, it will just move. So I want it over here on the side. I want to move the orientation of the Spotlight toolbar, put it anywhere. Scales in here, rotate, or scales here, rotates here. If I can pin it so it will stay there. Anyways, we could do a whole tutorial on just using the Spotlight, but mainly I just use it for that. To get rid of the tool selection, just hit Z to bring it back. To have this, to hide the image, if you do Shift Z, it will toggle that on and off. Now there's one more thing I need to do to be able to sculpt on this, because certain things like smooth won't work. Certain things just won't work if this Spotlight image is up. So I go to my brush, go to samples. This is important. Samples, and then Spotlight projection. It's already on by default. Turn that off. And now you can smooth, and you can do all of the just full sculpting like you're used to. But now you have a reference image right there. That's just pretty. Okay, so now that we have our scene set up the way we want it, let's just quick make a save. So this is just, Miss Feb 001, and I'm just going to save this out. Okay, so I really like to work in like the lowest amount of detail as I can before I start subdividing everything up or even dynameshing things up, just so I get the core shapes, the core silhouette, and that's what I'm looking to do here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is change this sphere into a Q sphere. So basically I'm just working with this, and make sure I turn on symmetry, hit X. And I'm going to start by building out kind of the chest cavity, and then the hips. So everything I'm just going to block out basically those simple shapes that I discovered when doing a sketch over the concept. I've got my reference on my secondary screen. I've got my my final reference next to me so I can see the big shapes as well. And then so the things that I'll be using in this to make this the way that I want is the move brush, and then I will be using my own Redbeard Q mesh inserts. So what I did is I just made a bunch of Q mesh objects, made them into one brush so I can append them whenever I want. And this way I'm going to be able to add the legs, the arms, the head really quickly with minimal detail. And then once I have that, I'll start using the Z modeler brush and putting things into place. And just so you know, if you did install all my brushes, you have most of my brushes here. There's a few that I left out. I think the only one that I really left out was the Dylan Ekron hairbrush. So the main brushes I'm using: Move, the Redbeard Q mesh insert brush, and then the Z modeler brush to edit some of these these primitives. Anyways, I got my my symmetry on, and I'm just going to start pulling things out. So this will be her chest, or her rib cage area. Another thing about females is their rib cage kind of comes wider instead of thinner. Instead of males kind of come in a little bit more and females kind of stay out. But just make that taper. You know, she's can't be too thick either. And I'm just using, and I sometimes will go into my transpose to squish things down, or rotate, or whatever I need to do for that. So you'll see me go into move, scale, and rotate. Again, those hotkeys, if you're unfamiliar, are W for move, E for scale, and R for rotate. And this is, that sphere just pulled a little bit. Now I want kind of her abdomen. So I'll use my Redbeard insert mesh, make sure that I'm choosing a sphere. If I hit M, it'll pull up all the different options. I just want the simple sphere, put that right in there, and then I'm just gonna move that into place. Oops, with this. Somehow it got off. Rotate. And also, not only do I have my reference up, I also have some anatomy reference that I'm using to make sure that I am kind of hitting the key landmarks and just some things that I'm wanting to make sure that I hit. I'm actually going to extend this so it's not just the abdomen, but also the hips as well. And again, I'm just looking for the simplest amount of detail that I can get. Push that shape just a little bit more. And I am worried about proportions at this time. I'm not super concerned about it because everything's going to be separated. I'm going to be able to move them around real quick. From this point, I will now do the legs. And for those of you wondering what my anatomy reference looks like, it looks like this. I'm not giving this away. I've paid for these images, so I'm not going to give, you'll see this in small preview, but hopefully you won't be able to, hopefully you don't try to rip it off. I got them from proco.com. They're only like $10 for 400 images of great anatomy poses, anatomy reference, and they're just really great quality. So anyways, so I've got that. I'm going to now add in another, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a cylinder this time. Oops. And just pull that into place. And just with my transform tool, I am just moving things around and, elongating things. It's there's only one subdivision, and that's pretty much perfect for what I want. So I'll bring this down, pull this in. Scale this so it has a nice taper to it. So I want her to have really skinny legs. And I'll switch between, now that I have multiple parts to this thing, I'm going to switch to this move topology brush. So now I can move this without ever affecting this mesh, But if I have both on, then I'm affecting both at one time. This is just any topology separated thing that I'm doing is what I want to do. So I'll just try to get these just a little bit more pushed, and just with these simple shapes kind of define the silhouette. And I'm not, the arc of anything I don't want in the dead center. I either want it weighted towards the knee or towards the upper part of the thigh. I want it towards the upper part of the thigh because that's the thicker part. So it has a gradual arc, and it has a gradual arc of what it's doing. And then the back is going to be more straight, not completely straight, but just more straight. I'm going to try to make this gap just a little bit wider. Maybe pull up where these hips arc a little bit more. The hips actually kind of have this nice curve to them. Or the thigh, it actually kind of weights up this way. Pulls back. These are really, really primitive shapes, but it keeps everything really loose. And I'm selecting this, and then because it's not all one polygroup, I've got the top and bottoms as different polygroups. If I hit grow once, it'll select everything, and I can tap and mask it and invert the mask. And now I can lengthen these legs a little bit. Actually, I want to, let's shrink this top torso. It's getting a little too top heavy. Make that just a titch skinnier too, so it's a little bit more extreme. You know, the hips are going to be slightly wider than where the shoulders will be, which is good. The chest, where the breast will sit, has a plane, and it has a gradual curve for the back and the spine. Then I can start divining, or just very subtly start pulling out maybe where the butt would be. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the knee. I am going to have the insides be a little bit lower than the outsides, because there's a muscle that actually hangs, you know, kind of comes across as an S and hangs right here on the kneecap. So this bulges out just a tiny bit more. So that's why I have it angled this way. Let's add in another cylinder with my Redbeard Primitives tool. Oops. If I click and hold shift, it will snap it so it's going to be vertical perfectly. So that's what I want. Oops. But if you do like a resize, so if you go big and go small, it will actually affect the width of it, which I don't want to do. So I'm just going to click and drag once, and now it's a perfect sphere on top, which is what I want. And now I'm going to take this and elongate it with my move tool. And with just my move brush, I'm going to start pushing things into place. The knee, or the bottom of the leg, actually kind of comes up. So it does kind of a reverse. So you've got, with the thigh, it's more flat on the back, and then when it comes down to where the calf is, it actually kind of does that S and comes out where the calf is, and the front of it is more flat. It actually has a subtle taper to push back a little bit. I'm going to take this, whoops, make sure I'm on my move. And the calf is actually weighted towards the inside, so that's kind of like, it's a diagonal in for where the calf is. So just a slight silhouette for the calf, not too much. I'm going to taper the ankle quite a bit, masking just the bottom part, and then scaling that down. And pulling maybe just a little bit more back on the calf. And the calf actually goes up above the knee, you know, kind of inserts up on top of it instead of the thigh being on top. So just remember that. You kind of have that angle here, similar to this angle that you have for the calf. Again, I'm trying to have slight curves. This one curves in and then curves out again. Subtle things, like almost a straight line. For that, I'm going to push this part back just a titch. And now I'll use a cube for the feet. And I'll actually use this cube split. The cube plane, or the cube, is just a four-sided cube. When the cube split actually has, it's split 4 ways. So I'll go in and add that right here. And I want, we'll say that the top part is where the ankle is, where your ankle bones are, and it's going to do the opposite slant of the calves. It's actually going to slant. The high part will be on the inside, the low part will be on the outside. Just to keep that in mind, I guess. And then I'll just quickly kind of shape these just to get a rough silhouette in there. But this will not be very detailed yet, because I'll plan on adding the real detail once I start getting in with my Z remesher, or not my Z remesher, my Z modeler brush. Feet. Anyways, I'll taper out. Maybe this is where the big toe will be. Inside of the arch of the foot. My goodness. Maybe I'll just add a split now just to get a little bit more definition to this. So the ankle will be to the high point. This will be low. We'll put this right back in there. Have the heel of the foot come out just a little bit. Pull this in just a titch. Pull this all back, I guess. Kind of hard to see what I'm doing, so I'm making sure I'm just affecting that by turning it to just a non-shaded version. I'll just use the good old clipping brush and clip the bottom of that. So if I use my clipping brush, clip it flat, just to have that for now. As you can see, I'm starting to get like a little bit of silhouette in there that I want. It's definitely not what I really want. What I really want. I'll tell you what I want. What I really want. I want to do it. What? They're great. Go back to my shaded thing. I want a little bit, now that I'm like seeing this together, I want the ankles to be thinner. Whoops. So mask lasso. I'll just lasso around the ankles and try to make these tinier. Then move them back into place. Maybe just a little bit thicker than that, actually. Not too much thicker. But they'll have a good taper. The feet. I'm not going to add any detail to the feet right now. Even though I said I would, I lied. make sure I go back to my select lasso after I've done the clip curve. And now I can kind of see her a little bit in more proportion. I'm going to thin her out just a little bit more again. And then maybe rotate this back just a titch. There we go. So it's almost flat where her stomach is, and then she's got kind of a nice arch to her. But you can also kind of see the flow coming up and down. It goes, you know, like a slight S right here, which is what I want. Now I want to go and add the head, the neck and the head, and then I'll do the arms after I get that. So let's add the head real quick, and that will be, again, with my Cura Mesh primitives. I'm going to do the detailed sphere for this one, just to have, oops. Wow, this is fun. The detailed sphere for this one to have a little bit more definition to it. I'm going to rotate it so it's more straight up and down. Put it where the head would be. Scale it a little bit. And then quickly just rough out maybe some proportions for the head. You know, gonna bring that muzzle back. Detail out the chin area. You know, this is all just really, really quick, just so I can get proportions. I just want a good silhouette. I want good proportions. If my fundamentals are strong, then the rest of the character is going to be easy to model. Again, the details up front, you know, and then their relief is in the back. Okay, that's good enough for the head for now. Maybe have this just straight up and down. Okay, good enough for now. And now let's just add a neck. Little tips to make your characters a little bit more appealing is to add longer necks for females. Just a slightly longer neck. This just adds a little bit of elegance to them, a little bit more femininity as well. So go to my to my RBQ mesh inserts, pick cylinder. I'm just going to add it here, hold shift so it's straight up and down. Put it here. I'm going to scale it so it's a little bit thinner. And then with my move transpose tool, put it more or less into place. Hit Q to go back into brush mode. And then I'm going to edit how I want this to fit in. I want kind of the spine to curve up and into it. So I'll probably move the head a little bit more forward. That taper out like this. And the clavicle will be more or less right there. Just do this, do grow selection, select it, grow selection, everything's now visible, tap to mask, tap to shift tap to reveal everything again, and then just kind of subtly invert the mask, and move that into place, just so it's a little bit more, the neck is going into almost the back of the head. Perfect. Might move transpose tool and just kind of fix some of these things. Grow, make sure I get everything. Tap to mask. And control tap to mask. And then I do a shift control to reveal everything, and then I tap again to invert the mask. And then I'm going to try to I just want the front of this, maybe hide this stuff. Okay, there we go, just like that. So now we're having kind of that S that goes, follows this. Put that forward just a titch. Making sure she's still feeling balanced, like she's not going to fall over, she's not going to lean too far forward. The next, I'll just add a quick sphere for where I want that knee to be. I want these knees to be just a hair skinnier too. For the mask lasso, I just circle the knee, scale that down a little bit. Just a titch so the arc's closer to the pelvis, the pelvic bone. These are roughly the same measurements and length. Want to make sure I have that. This could actually come down. This is the foot. This is the ankle, and the foot would actually come down just a bit more. So if I bring that down to there, it's a little bit more real. That's a little bit more pleasing. Now let's go ahead and add the arms. I'll just do subtle things to kind of hint at the landing points, like the clavicle, that asus bone. I guess that asus bone is actually more right here. The passis bone. I think this is the sculptrum right here. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And then you have, those are the, theoretically the top of the rib cage will be more or less right here on her, but because I wanted this kind of subtle, her stomach goes in, showing that she kind of has ab muscles, without actually showing any ab muscles, and then kind of has that pocket of flesh right here, and then this would curve back in like so. Anyways, just little things to help the silhouette region. We're at 332 points, polys, so which is really low, especially for roughing things out, but it's, the feeling of the character is coming across really well, which is the most important thing. So now let's go ahead and add the eye, or the arms. So first I'm going to do a simple sphere to indicate the shoulders. Maybe rotate them a bit, place them in there. And I want them to kind of follow where that clavicle bone will come up. And maybe just rotated slightly forward too. And now I can go ahead and add a cylinder. Let's go M, cylinder, click out and hold shift. We'll rotate that around, place it just underneath that sphere, and then I'm going to elongate it with the move tool, or the move transpose line, and just pull out. The idea is I want the elbow to be right where the belly button would be. So if we were to rotate from where the joint would be, rotate this down, it's right where that it's right where the belly button should be. Anyways, okay. I'm going to scale just the inside of this to give some slight taper. Just a lead wheat, and then bring that back out to here. I want the curve to be up here, and I want this arc to start right here to kind of show. So I want this arc to actually reflect the tricep muscle. You know how it kind of peaks right here. Maybe you can see a slight hint. Whoops. Move tool. Go back. Shows just a little bit underneath, but it's going to have kind of the top arc here, and then start tapering down to where the elbow would be. But that's going to be my arc here, and make sure that it maybe kind of tapers out and kind of has an angle to it as well. And these are all like design choices. So with this one arc, as I said, you want to have muscle design anatomy instead of stylized anatomy. This will more or less define the tricep and the bicep without too much information, which is awesome. And then the bicep kind of rolls, this rolls up into the forearm. So it kind of goes a little bit more in here. And the forearm and the bicep, or the upper arm and the lower arm, actually kind of fit into each other like a chain link. So like if I have, let's go into Photoshop real quick, I'll show you what I'm meaning. So the forearm, like this part of the arm, is what we're doing now. These two ligaments, or not ligaments, these two appendages actually kind of fold into each other like a chain link, or if this is a box and this is the upper arm, the forearm actually goes into it like this. So you have two, they kind of twist like this. So this is like the long, wide, and then this is wide this way. Just how it interlocks. So it has a little bit of offset to it. Just something to remember when kind of blocking out your shapes. Anyways, back to ZBrush. And this, rolls into the pit of your elbow, and now let's go ahead and add another cylinder. My shift is not working. Anyways, whatever, it's okay. Put that more or less into place. Pull that back. move tool to elongate it. And I want this to be more or less the same length as my forearm, so I don't want it too long. That's a little bit too long. A little bit shorter because you've got your elbow or your wrist there. Obviously this is going to be a little bit too big, so I'm just going to start pushing this down. And then the forearm has that muscle that kind of wraps up and around like this. So we want, you know, the arc to be here. And I'm going to poke out a little bit there. This is still a little bit too big. And then taper these wrists so they've got really skinny wrists, so that she has really skinny wrists. That's a little bit too skinny. You can kind of do this trick to measure it. Like this is the forearm length or the upper arm length. It's just a little shorter, so I could go just a little bit longer. I could also go a little bit skinnier too. Do that same measurement again. Right about there. Yeah, that's about right. Actually, her upper arm is looking a little long, so I'm going to just grow that selection. Lasso just the upper arm. I'm just going to shrink that just a little bit, just the length. It's looking just a hitch too long. Grow that selection again. Bring that right into the elbow. And it kind of has the same opposite effect, where this has the same S. This is the part of the rhythm and flow of the design. So it's going to be, this was bulging out here where the tricep is, and this will be more weighted towards the front of the arm from the top view. There's still a little bit of a curve in the back, but not a ton. And then I want this to be where the wrist is, to be more squished. So I'll squish it down. Maybe angle it just a little bit. I'll actually even the wrist has a twist to it, so it's not flat across. It actually from here kind of twists towards the inside of the body. So I might just do that with these primitives to indicate that twist later. Oops. And then rotate. And if I tap on any point, that's where our transpose line will come from. So I put it right in the middle, and then I just rotate in like that to show that twist of the forearm. And now I'll just squish it down. And now I've got my forearm. Make it just a little bit wider. Just a bit wider. There you go. Whew. And now our forearm is looking a little short, just a tit short, so I'm just going to pull that out a little bit. Beauty. And now I want to do just a quick, some points for the knees, and then I'll do a quick block for the hands, and that's it. So we'll redo the hands completely. be, oh whoops, I can just go over here. If I grab my primitive, I'm going to show where the knee's going to be. Pull that back in so you could kind of see, maybe make that a little bit tall so it looks more flat. Scale it down. Knee joint will be right here. Do the same for the elbow to have that ball of the elbow, which kind of pokes out. I mean, it's not going to poke out too much with her straight arms. Actually, I want to do some twists to her arms real quick. Now, because I want just everything separated, I'm going to do this automatic groups tab that I have. This will split everything into its own. Anything that's an object, it will be its own polygroup. So hit that. So now I can just select everything without worrying that that I'm missing the top or the bottom, right? So let's get this, the arm, this arm, mask that, bring those back. And to make this feel a little bit more natural, I'm going to pull these, have the arms just bent back just a titch, and then mask this one, and then bend these arms forward so she's not so stiff. We've got a little bit of life to her. Now that we have our proportions the way we want, unmask everything. This is just giving her a little bit more life. Turn on perspective every now and then just to see how she feels. Undo perspective. And I'm going to put that, now that elbow ball right here. Make it a little bit longer. A little bit longer now. And then just move that into place of where the elbow would be. Pull that in, rotate that just a hair out. Now I have just kind of the core landmarks done. Oh, I just need to do the hands. Let's do the hands. Let's do a quick save while we're here. Save, replace that. And now let's do the hands, finish off this base model, and then we'll start actually building things. Oh, and the chest, the chesticles. So again, I'm going to do a ball for the wrist. Squish this down so it's a very small ball. Oops. This is just where the wrist anchor will be. Whoops. Put that in there. Scale that just a titch more. And then we'll just add the hand with a split cube. Rotate this down like so. Put the hand in, squash that hand down so it's thin. Another thing to do is you can make the hands slightly larger to show a little bit more femininity to her, but with thin hands, thin fingers, and all that jazz. So get that in there. Squish this down. Just rotate it because more or less I just want some definition of like what the hand could, is relationship to the rest of the character. There's the palm. Here's the forearm, or not the forearm, the fingers, maybe they're turned in a little bit. And just kind of rough out the little shape of the hands. They grow out this way and kind of cup around. Do a thumb real quick. A simple sphere. And really this is just to get a good feeling of proportions compared to her body. So when I do build the hand and I get ready to finalize it, that I'm not trying to guess on like size and anything like that. I've got a good idea of proportions already mapped out. Doesn't really matter too much this part, but at least I kind of see. And our hands look really small right now, so do another auto group, make sure that everything's separated. Got the hands, invert that selection, and now I can take these hands and scale them to the right size. Place them back, remembering that the back of the hands almost lines up completely with the back of the forearm. Use the move to just tweak this stuff just a little bit more. Give some taper to the hands, to the fingers. Okay, so that is, one last thing I want to do. I just want to give the slight tilt to the wrist as well, just to give some drama to it. It kind of looks like she's almost a little bit limp there, but has just some, it's just more character to it. Now I just look over the character, make sure that she's looking proportional, like maybe she's leaning too far forward. So I can fix that by just hooking the foot or this up just a bit differently. And she's looking a lot more, proportional to what she should be. Making some quick adjustments around here. Think about making this taper just a little bit lower. There we go. Okay, so that is my rough layout, my rough blockout. In the next video, what we're going to do is finalize and refine the body. And as I'm saying this, I again forgot the chest. So let's just do that really quick too. So let's do the chest real quick. Again, this is more trying to define the rib cage, but there is that big, has a big slant angle to it as it curls up and around and kind of comes back. So I'll just use, my primitives again. Choose a sphere, not detailed. And the idea that I want to do for this is maybe this is the nipple. And I don't want them too big. I hate seeing all these 3D models come out with these girls with ginormous breasts. I want her to look real. I want her to look not... She's a pinup. This is obviously a version of a pinup model, but a type of pinup model. There is some class, and she will be wearing a bra, so I'm not going to have them huge and sticking straight up because that's just not real. But I do want them to feel natural, so I'm going to push them. First, I'm going to rotate them out because breasts rotate out, kind of point out, and she will have smaller breasts. So they will actually kind of hook up just slightly. Okay. We'll rotate. They will have kind of like a rotate, kind of diagonal down. And then I'll just move them into place. They sit upon kind of the check muscle, the pec muscle. And I'm just gonna pull, and they pull back into the chest. Yeah, there's nothing worse that I hate seeing is like, oh, that's a beautiful model, except for the boobs are so big that you can't look at anything else. Like, maybe some people really like that. I'm sure there, well, obviously there are, but I'm just, just try to have a little bit of class. Like, some of the best 3D pinup art out there is by Andrew Hickenbottom, and everything that he does is very tasteful. It's very classy. So he's a good reference if you're trying to figure out what to do. And I'm going to try to keep them a little bit closer together, kind of like they're pushed together almost, because they will be in a bra, but not, there will be some separation. It's just not Chesty McBooberson. And they kind of breasts kind of hook up to this, to your shoulder muscle. They kind of swoop up. They're kind of like teardrops more. And don't get me wrong, I love boobs, but just be classy. Seattle or San Francisco, stay classy. This might be just a bit too small. Someone's cheering, yay, make them bigger. Not too big. I don't want them to be the focal point. I want her to be the focal point. Anyways, that's just a good, more or less rough silhouette for her. Just trying to get the placement right of these. Just a little bit lower. They're up kind of high on her chest. There. Okay. Anyways, so I do that. Make sure that everything is auto grouped, so it has its own group, and that is our blockout of the female character. All the core things are right there. Now that we have that, we can go in and start refining and polishing. And we'll do that in the next video.